Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Brendan and welcome back to the channel. Now I hope all of you guys are having a great day no matter where you are from, but unfortunately the crypto market saw one of its largest hacks ever yesterday for around $570 million. Now this took place on the Binance or the BNB chain, and you guessed it, it's because of another cross-chain bridge. Now their response to this is really questionable and it has the crypto market torn in half as to whether they should do it or not. It's something that we saw Solana do earlier this year, and we're going to be breaking it down in today's video, talking about how this hack happened, where all the funds were stolen, and what BNB wants their response to be, and whether that lines up with a public perception as well. Now, in some brighter news, we also have Visa partnering with FTX to bring forth a new debit card. This would mean that you'd be able to use it in 40 different countries across hundreds, or excuse me, not hundreds, but millions of different merchants, because Visa's connections run very, very deep when it comes to global payment systems. Now, in other words, I also want to talk about what's happening on the chart, because as we talked about yesterday, there's a squeeze happening on Ethereum, there's a squeeze happening on Bitcoin as well, and we need to check out what BNB is doing in response to this large hack, because it's not a good thing. BNB is seeing a lot of selling pressure at the moment, but I don't think that it'll last forever. Binance will come up with a solution for this, and that needs to be talked about and addressed as well. So if any of this sounds interesting, make sure you stick around for the entire length of the video, as there will be important information discussed the entire way through. But let's go ahead and start off here with Binance, because this hack it's incredibly large. Again, $570 million is no small amount of money, and my heart goes out to the people or the institutions or anyone else who was affected by this. It's unfortunate, but it's due to another cross-chain bridge. And these cross-chain bridges, while they are phenomenal in nature and we love being able to have interconnectability, we've seen a ton of hacks from them this year. And that kind of begs the argument, is this to do with the people who's creating them just being lazy and not checking for certain errors that might be coming up? Or is there an inherent risk of cross-chain bridges? And there are companies launching that are trying to solve this issues. There's one that just launched called Axelar, but there's still a lot of risk here. And so with hundreds of millions of dollars being stolen multiple times this year already, this again has to go back to the idea of what can we do about this. Now, Binance's plan is to potentially roll back their blockchain, and this raises to questions, should we even be able to do this for a blockchain? And because BNB is a more heavily centralized blockchain, and with Binance having the majority of validator control, they are able to go back and essentially roll back the blockchain and kind of unwind the hack as if it never really took place, so to say. And so that's, I guess, a way to really simplify what's going to happen here and what's very likely to happen. But in total, these hackers withdrew 2 million BNB coins for around $570 million at its current price. Now, as I said earlier, BNB price has fallen pretty drastically since we saw that happen. And if we go, when we look at BNB, it's down, if we want to measure this out, since the hack happened, it's down around 5%. Could definitely be worse, but the big news here is that BNB halted their chain. And so when this happened, there's a lot of questions that are up in the air. You know, when is it going to unfreeze? Is it going to unfreeze, or are they going to just freeze it until they roll everything back and then restore everyone's funds and then have things go back to normal? But how often do we want to see blockchains just roll things back because they're so centralized? Again, we saw this earlier with Solana. We're seeing it now potentially with BNB, but it kind of goes against the whole idea of a blockchain. And while we want to restore everyone's funds, are we okay with just every time something happens, we know that there is a centralized source for a lot of these major blockchains that can just undo it? Because that seems like tampering. It does. And, you know, it's a hard topic, because obviously we don't want to see the hackers get away with the money, but we also don't want to see a centralized source be able to manipulate a blockchain so much that they're able to undo hundreds of million dollars in transactions. And so it's a really, really hot issue. I want to know your thoughts on it in the comment section down below. Should Binance be allowed to do this? And if so, let me know your thoughts. Again, there's 50% of people think that they should, 50% of people think that they shouldn't. It's a really, really hot debated topic at the moment. Now, in more brighter news and in better news, FTX and Visa are launching their crypto debit card worldwide. Now, we've already seen other versions of crypto debit cards. There's been a couple of other people that have already partnered with Visa to do this, and it looks like FTX wants to be the next one in line. But why Visa? Well, that would be because anyone who has this card would be able to have access to it in 40 different countries, as well as pretty much everyone inside of Visa's network. And I think it talks about it somewhere in this article or maybe in the other one that I pulled up. But yeah, this would mean that they have a network of over 80 million merchants that you get to have access to with this cryptocurrency card. Now, one of the cool things about this card that other cards are not doing, other cards are saying that you have to load up money into your card with like USD, and then you can get crypto earned back on them. What this card would be doing is saying that you can link this to a wallet, and then from that wallet, you are able to drain funds and spend them and be rewarded with whatever their reward be. Maybe it's points, maybe it's most likely cash back in the form of cryptocurrency. But it's a cool concept here because other cards like the Crypto.com card, you essentially have to get USD and load that onto your card via Crypto.com. And then after you have USD on your card, it's just a normal debit card that you happen to earn cryptocurrency back for. And so yeah, I mean, it makes things cool, it makes things easy, but if we're able to just link a wallet to this and just drain Ethereum or drain Bitcoin or drain something like that and be able to spend that on maybe a new TV or a new sofa or a car or something like that, then it could be a really, really cool concept because then people are able to really spend their cryptocurrency in a much more simpler manner than it comes to traditionally doing this. And this comes with the continued adoption push for crypto. And I think that in a couple of years from now, we're going to barely notice the difference with how simplified cryptocurrency transactions are going to become. I think that this will be the first step in a multi-step process where in a couple of years, you're going to be able to go and use major cryptocurrencies just as easily as you use the US dollar or the euro or the pound or whatever you use. I think the process and that bridge is going to have, or excuse me, not bridge, that separation is going to have something that bridges them so that they're on an equal playing field and you're going to be able to just as easily use crypto as payment as you are fiat. So I'm excited to see how this partnership and how this whole area of crypto really evolves in the coming years. It's one of those things that for the people who have been around in the space for like the last decade now, we've been waiting for crypto payments to become this easy, and we're finally starting to see them get on that level. Now, in final news, before we get into the technical analysis, a new documentary is dropping on the called IPO, or excuse me, it's called Coin, but it's about the first cryptocurrency IPO for Coinbase, and apparently it has to do a lot with Brian Armstrong, which is one of their chief executives. But it's still cool because cryptocurrency is now at the place where it can have documentaries or movies or things of this nature made about it. So the industry is growing, interest is growing, otherwise there wouldn't be a documentary on it. But I think that this is such a important part of history to say this was the first crypto company IPO, and we want to be able to document this because there's probably going to be a lot more of them to come. And so this is a very important moment. Obviously, it's a great thing for Coin to have their IPO. It means that cryptocurrency is at a place where it's able to do that now, not only from a regulatory standpoint, but from a growth and popularity standpoint and a demand standpoint. We're able to have documentaries about this be made because there is interest about it and most likely a lot more to come. Now let's dive into this technical analysis over here. We're going to take a look at Bitcoin, talk about this squeeze really briefly, and then go back and talk about Ethereum as well. Now, Bitcoin's in a really unique situation right now because what it has on its chart is a parallel channel or a sideways channel just moving very horizontally with a descending triangle inside of it as well. And so if we want to get rid of this parallel channel that we have in the middle of our chart, we can really see the descending triangle in its full power. And so what we are seeing is lower swing highs and lower swing highs just consistently. And it looks like yesterday we just had another rejection of resistance. But I'm sure you're asking, Brendan, why is this significant? Why do I care about some triangle on a chart? And that tends to be because a descending triangle is a bearish formation pattern. Now, we really don't want to see play out on Bitcoin because if this happens, it could very easily tank Bitcoin to potentially new yearly lows. Now, let's talk about why this is a bearish pattern. And if you want early access to all this, we covered this in yesterday's live stream for Crypt Nation, or for the Crypt Nation VIPs. So if you want a link to that, there's a link to that in the description down below as well. Now, when it comes to descending triangles, they squeeze from resistance, which is falling, to support, which is flat. And what it does is every time we're hitting this, we're making support weaker and weaker and weaker, and we're just beating down on the door. And so every time we're hitting this, imagine you're punching a window. That window's integrity is getting weaker every time you punch it and punch it and punch it, until eventually the floor, the window itself over here, it's gonna break. And so that's what we're seeing, is we're just seeing pressure on something like Bitcoin here, just build up, and pressure is squeezing towards the bot side. And that's why we don't like descending triangles, because they tend to break out to the downside. Now, if we go back earlier to this idea of a parallel channel, if we are able to invalidate this descending triangle on Bitcoin, this would likely mean that Bitcoin has a shot of going back up to resistance around $25,000, which could be a really, really healthy thing, especially when, if this descending triangle is able to get invalidated, we have the potential for a W formation. And I want to explain why. Now, the W formation is a formation that is typically used at the bottom of a trend or at a reversal period. And right now, we are pretty much formed everything on the W except for this last leg that we have over here. So if we're going to erase this, all that we have right here, and if I want to undo this, is we have the first leg. Oops. We have the first leg, the second leg, the third leg, and now all we're waiting for is the potential of this last and fourth leg on this W, and it could signify that a bottom's in. Again, all of this is pretty much hinging on the fact that Bitcoin has to break out of this descending triangle. If it's able to, there's a really good shot, because that means that we would likely move back up to resistance around $25,000, and if this breaks, we would likely move to the previous consolidation range around $28,000 to maybe even $30,000. And if that happens, then we have the final formation of this W forming, and that's when things could really start to get exciting for not only Bitcoin, but really the entire cryptocurrency market as we know it and as we love it. Now, if we're going back to Ethereum, we have a very, very similar chart, in the sense that we're seeing a squeeze, just not from a descending triangle. This one is from a symmetrical triangle, or a pennant. And so we have resistance over here squeezing on support. We can see that we have rejections and rejections upon rejections, and then we have multiple touch points of support over here that we can all look at as well. And so what we're seeing over here, instead of pressure squeezing towards the downside, we're going from resistance to support, just back and forth and back and forth. And now we're squeezing at the very end of this pennant for Ethereum. And so we're just bouncing from support and resistance, and we're at the very end of this formation. And so if there's anything to take note here, it's that major cryptocurrencies are squeezing. Squeezes typically cause very large moves, and very large moves create a lot of potential, both towards the up and the downside. So there's a lot to watch out here, especially as we go into the next week to week and a half on crypto. It looks very likely that we're going to see a fairly large move come into the crypto markets here in the not so distant future. So there's a lot of great stuff happening. There's a lot of potential here, a lot of money that could be made, but also a lot of volatility that's likely on the way. So hopefully all of you did enjoy this video and all the warnings and all the updates of everything that's happening in the crypto space. If you enjoyed this video and you want to watch more ones like it, we make videos like this every single week on the channel. So if you did enjoy it, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Do you think the crypto markets like Bitcoin and Ethereum can hold their support and see a breakout to the upside, or do you think a breakdown's coming? And likewise, do you think BNB should do this whole rollback idea where they just kind of act like nothing happened, and because they own most of the validators, they're just able to kind of undo what has happened on a blockchain and roll it back? Do you think that they should be able to do that? Do you think that they should do that? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. But until next week's video, I will see all of you very, very soon.